Hey there, folks. Jordan with Status Coup. It's already dark here on the East Coast in Staten Island, New York City. We are right here in front of, usually they have a tent. These are the Amazon workers that are part of Amazon Labor Union, which is the group of workers that are trying to form a union here at Staten Island, which is a mega warehouse. You can't really see it, but it's right over there. It's the size of 15 football fields, this warehouse. And this is the site of, I think, how long has this union drive been going on? Like almost?
April.
Yeah. So since April, workers here in Staten Island have been organizing to form a union. There's a lot of union busting going on with Amazon. Also, if you don't know, beyond Staten Island, the election that was held in Bessemer, Alabama, which the workers lost who were trying to unionize, that has been thrown out, and the regional National Labor Relations Board has ruled that it has to be redone in Bessemer because they ruled Amazon did several things that were illegal. So we don't know when that election will be restarted or redone, but basically, we have the union drive and the union effort here in Staten Island, as well as in Bessemer. Chris, when you're ready, come on over here. So there's a lot going on, a lot of it, well, some of it has to do with Christian Smalls, on quite a lot. Other things have to do with Amazon's, really escalating union busting here, to the point of just, I'm no labor law expert, but really violating labor laws. So first, let's just tell the audience, Chris, you guys do this on a regular basis, just setting up food so that workers, when they come off the bus here, can get food before their shift or after their shift. Tell me about just kind of the day-to-day process here of your organizing.
Yeah, this is exactly what we've been doing for the last 7 months. Just connecting with workers in a humane way and feeding them, providing water in the summertime, barbecues. In the wintertime, obviously now, hot chocolate, hot food. We got more food coming on the way. This is something we do every day with the donations that we receive. So thank you to the outside community for supporting us, because without the donations coming in, we can't feed the workers here. And when we do this, we're talking about 200 to 600 workers a day. It's being fed for free. And this is something that Amazon doesn't provide. So it's something that builds our relationship and earns the workers' trust with us. So we appreciate it very much.
So I want to talk about, there's a lot to talk about, but I wanted to start with kind of like the most breaking news. So the New York Attorney General, Letitia James, who is also running for governor, so she's the Attorney General, but she recently announced she's running for governor. She filed a motion on Tuesday in court to basically force Amazon to provide safety for workers with COVID, basically saying that Amazon has stopped providing safety measures like social distancing and other things for months. My understanding is throughout this pandemic, whatever they were offering wasn't enough in the first place, because workers that I would speak with said social distancing is non-existent here. I have workers throughout this pandemic who sometimes daily were sending me screenshots of the texts that come from Amazon, positive COVID cases. So can you talk about what was her motion? What did she file? The motion, and part of the motion that she filed was for them to reinstate you.
Yeah, absolutely. Since the pandemic started, that's exactly what we've been raising concerns about, was the COVID safety and the working conditions here. Amazon claims they spend billions of dollars to protect workers, but that's obviously not the case. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have seen people die like Pushan. We wouldn't have seen workers COVID. 20,000 workers, over 20,000 workers reportedly, contracted this virus working here. And that's not even just JFK alone. We're just talking about other parts of the country that's been affected by this. And the motion she filed is just basically putting pressure to have a monitor come monitor their protocols that are in place and provide even more protections than what they already receiving. Amazon rolled back the testing back in July. Didn't make any sense to me. JFK, of all buildings, especially the building which is home base for me for advocating, roll back the safety protocol, roll back the testing, roll back the mask mandate. They're taking away their cell phones December 31st. They're doing a bunch of stuff that just doesn't make any sense.
They're taking away workers' cell phones?
Taking away their cell phones so that they won't be able to get the alerts. So it doesn't make any sense what they're doing here. They're putting profits above people. Obviously, it's peak season now. They overstaffed. They overhired. Got workers standing around for 2-3 hours a day every single day here. Obviously, not just to throw off the union bargaining unit, but they're doing this just because, this is what Amazon does: hire and fire people. So this all ties in together. My reinstatement is also sending a message to workers that it's okay to speak up, it's okay to fight back, and it's okay if your company retaliates and you continue to fight back and you be successful on the other side. So,
have you been reinstated, or the Attorney General filed for them to reinstate you?
So she filed a motion for them to reinstate me in a temporary sense. So meaning that I won't be getting any back pay or anything. Just give me my job back, to send that message saying that to workers, saying that it's okay to advocate and fight back and get your job and keep your job. Still, in the meanwhile, Amazon will probably appeal, which we all know. But I'll still be able to work here throughout that process until we go to trial or litigation or whatever is going to happen further down the line. But in the meantime, she's ordering for them to reinstate me immediately.
And I want to just read for the audience some of what the motion says. So this is from the Attorney General's Tuesday motion that she filed. The state now seeks preliminary injunctive relief because Amazon is rolling back its already inadequate public health measures and acting as if the pandemic is over when the risk of virus transmission is increasing and a new variant threatens to cause even higher rates of transmission, illness, and death. The motion states, while case rates, hospitalizations, and deaths rise, Amazon rescinds protections and packs in more workers for its holiday rush. And her affidavit cited two workers, Derek Palmer and Tristan Martinez, who detailed the reduced safety measures and a redacted photo of a stand-up gathering at the Staten Island facility. Quote, Amazon does not have a mandate that all workers must be vaccinated. Palmer wrote, I come in contact with hundreds of other workers at JFK 8 each day, and I don't know who is vaccinated and who is not. So I wanted to also point out, at the same time that they pulled back all these safety measures, they've been holding these daily mandatory listening sessions, or whatever they call it, peak training. Status Coup we got our hands on audio from one of the trainings, and I don't know, it just seems like they are trying to train the workers to be opposed to the Amazon labor union, which, if you don't know, ALU is this group that's trying to form a union at Amazon. So can you tell me about those? I know you aren't in it because you haven't been reinstated yet, but I've spoken with workers that are in it. I mean, it's just blatant propaganda. And we've seen Starbucks and other companies do this, but why did they start holding these daily sessions over the last month or two?
Well, number one, if we wasn't a threat, as much as they try to belittle us, they wouldn't be doing them. But obviously that's not the case. We definitely have a stronghold here. They know that we have a connection, a real connection with the workers. So as soon as we filed, that's when they brought in the cavalry, the onslaught of union buses from all over the country that are here right now as we speak, days and nights. They're trying to create that doubt, and that's exactly what these captive audiences are for.
Just so the audience knows, the HR officials that are running these meetings, most of them are not from here. They're coming from Chicago and other states. So Amazon basically has whatever they call it, employee relations people, HR people. Some of them, from what I could tell, aren't actual Amazon employees, but are consultants from union busting firms. And they're running these meetings, and they talk a little bit about, all the benefits and great things you get at Amazon. So they do that for a few minutes, and then boom, let me tell you about the ALU.
Yeah, that's exactly correct. I even though I'm not in the building no more, I've been in several meetings. I've received so many recordings from workers sending me about what they're saying in there. And You know, I haven't released a lot of them, you know, because it's just like so much, and I get them every day because they're still going. They're still going on. They're supposed to do it for about 6 weeks or whatever. And it's kind of backfiring on them. You know, we've been shutting them down. If there's organizers in the room, they shut them down, disrupt them. As you heard, workers try to disrupt them, like, you know, calling out the spade with them. And that's what we have to do. We have to rebuttal them real time, shut them down, and hopefully workers will realize if Amazon is spending so much time and energy and money into holding these meetings, it's probably something that they should be inquiring about. So that's all we need to do is battle that. The fact that Amazon is spending millions of dollars, are losing millions of dollars a day by pulling people off the production floor to have these meetings. We're talking 50 to 60 people. So that slows your production down a lot. It costs money to do that. So if it costs money for this company, that means they could be putting that money towards something else. So pay your workers better. That's what we're going to advocate for as this union.
And I want to ask you, because you guys got some bad press recently because the National Labor Relations Board, I think the regional NLRB, rejected your first attempt at holding the election. So since April, you guys have been trying to get workers to sign union cards expressing interest in holding a vote. And essentially you had to get a certain level to go to the NLRB. The NLRB say, okay, you have enough signatures, you could hold an election. But the NLRB, within the last few weeks, denied the initial effort, saying you didn't have enough cards. Seems to me that Amazon's done some creative things to make that happen. But I wanted to ask from you, I mean, you're one of the leaders. Why is it that the NLRB rejected your first bid and said you didn't have enough union cards?
So, yeah, once again, we need to talk about passing the PRO Act. You know, that's exactly what happened, is the fact that the workers get the short end of the stick. You know, we did everything right. We met our requirements several times. We signed up over 2,000 people. And what happened was we only have a certain time limit to deliver more cards after we filed. Our time expired. Now we can no longer do anything. We can't file a motion to extend. We can't just drop off cards whenever we feel like it. Our time is done. Like you mentioned, Amazon did do something that was, you know, unprecedented. They filed a motion to extend it 2 weeks past our original date, which I obviously declined. I said, no way. We're ready to go right now. The board gave them 2 days originally, and then all of a sudden, the day of, I was called into the NLRB in person. I had to go there in person, and they told me that they gave them an extra 5 days. And I didn't understand, why would you give Amazon more time instead of giving the workers more time?
What did they give Amazon more time if the process is you guys bringing down union cards?
They changed the court hearing. So it's all public information. You'll see that the original court date was November 15th. It got changed to November 17th and then finalized to November 22nd. So they gave them ample time for Amazon to dispute our cards. And when they found out that half the people, almost half the people that signed up, no longer work at Amazon because they've been firing them. And the real issue is Amazon's turnover rate of 150%, 3% a week. They're firing at a rapid rate, so we have to try to outmatch that.
So basically, in a nutshell, you need to bring X amount of cards. I think it's 30%. 30% of the workers here, you have to bring in 30% interest in holding an election, but Amazon's firing so many workers that a huge portion of the signatures you got no longer work here. And let's face it, Amazon's in part firing those people to stop you from having valid signatures.
Right. And time is against us, so giving them more time, it puts us at a disadvantage. And we can sign up people today, which we do. We sign up people every single day. There's no guarantee they'll be here next week, you know, because the turnover rate here is so high. At a 3% rate a week, we don't know who still have their job until we submit the cards in Amazon and you know, submit a payroll that cross-reference that.
Can you kind of explain for the audience, because all people see, I mean, I've seen this one commercial constantly with this, I don't know, he was an Amazon worker and Amazon put him through school as a nurse, and then he's on the beach at the end and it's all rainbows and sunshine. So the PR that Amazon puts out there is that they help workers with tuition and other benefits. But what you're describing is this hamster wheel of them just hiring, firing, hiring, firing, hiring, firing. So why is Amazon hiring so many people here and then firing them, it seems, within a couple months?
Yeah, you know, that's the propaganda that they're going to spend to the to the press, to the public. You know, they want Amazon to look like this golden company, but that's not the reality of it. You know, I've been here almost 5 years. I did these programs that put you in school. It's not accredited colleges that they're putting you in. They're certificates, and you have to still go to an accredited college to do that. They don't pay the full tuition at all. So a lot of the things that they're spending is just not the reality of the situation. And we know that's what they're going to do. They want to make sure that they're amplifying people of color now. So all these commercials, if you pay attention, ever since I've been fired, if you pay attention to all their commercials and propaganda they put out, they have people of color, they have people with disabilities, they have people with this and that. They do that so that it looks like they're taking care of the mass, but they're not. All they're doing is hiring and firing the people of color and the people that have disabilities, the people that have medical issues, underlying health conditions. You know, we see it every single day out here.
And also, I'm not trying to get you in trouble with the NLRB because I know you got to be on good terms. But to me, if the NLRB sees this, why is there no provisions in there? It seems like Amazon's just gaming the process because they could get, 3,000, 4,000 signatures. But if Amazon is then going to just fire however many of those workers, then they're constantly going to be, according to the measurement that the NLRB says, that you need 30% of the entire workforce, you're constantly going to be short because Amazon's just going through these workers. So it just seems like, you can't dictate to a private company hiring and firing within, they can't fire people illegally, but shouldn't there be a monitor to make sure they're not just firing people to deprive you of enough union signatures?
Absolutely. That's exactly why, the PRO Act needs to be passed because, it puts the workers at a disadvantage without it. We're in the dark and we're doing what we're supposed to be doing on our end. Now it's time for the government to step up and do what they're supposed to do, which is to protect the workers' rights. And the NLRB can be doing a lot more than what they've been doing. And I'm hoping, with this new administration and the claims that they claim, these new remedies, that they implement some of them right here in JFK. They need to bring back some of these workers that were fired, that we filed ULPs for. They need to reinstate myself. They need to protect workers as far as the NLRB process. Don't give us just 2 days to drop off cards. That's just this is not the first 48. They gave me 48 hours to drop off hundreds of cards. Meanwhile, you gave Amazon a week. So it doesn't make any sense how you give a company that's trillions of dollars a week and you give workers 2 days. So the process itself needs to be addressed. And, that's what we have to do. Whether we're the catalyst for that or not, we have to just keep chipping away at what we're doing and hopefully they understand that this interest here for an election.
And I want to also talk about, obviously, you're focused on here, but Bessemer, Alabama, which was the first attempt to unionize for Amazon, it lost pretty convincingly. The workers lost, but it didn't. It just seemed overwhelmingly suspect the whole time. Amazon, literally the timing of the street lights were changed, traffic signals were changed to slow down traffic, and also Amazon against the NLRB. The NLRB told them, no, you cannot put a U.S. postal box on the premises where workers would drop in their ballots, their union ballots, because that basically intimidates workers that Amazon is monitoring which workers are voting, maybe how they're voting, this and that. But Amazon blew off the NLRB and put a postal box on the premises to collect the ballots. So the regional National Labor Relations Board down south just basically tossed out the election and declared that there needs to be a new election. There has not been an announcement when that would start, anything like that. But I wanted to ask you about that. You and some of your coworkers here went down to Bessemer during that union effort, so you spoke with folks down there. What does it say to you? To me, it seems like Amazon's doing illegal things here too. They did illegal things down there, but the illegal things here, I mean, like I said, it's in the description of this video, by the way. We broke a story. We got audio of one of these union busting meetings. I mean, to the letter of the National Labor Relations Act, which says you cannot intimidate workers, you cannot do polling of workers to see which workers are interested in the union, which ones are not. It seems to me they're breaking laws, I mean, on a daily basis here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There's so many things that are unraveling right now, and we barely scratched the surface. This company's definitely playing dirty. They don't play fair at all. They're using their money and power, and that's what we expected. But to this point where it puts us at a disadvantage of even having a fair election, enough is enough. We got to definitely call it out, and we deserve to have an election here, and we're going to continue to fight until we get that. And whether that's putting pressure on the NLRB to do the right thing, that's so be it. I don't want to. Definitely, yeah, like you said, I got to work with them. But at the same time, I'm not going to stand for bullshit either. I'm not going to stand out here, a year and try to sign people up and do everything right and then get shut down again. That's not what we want to do. We want to make sure that we encourage workers to use their rights. So if the NLRB is not doing that, we have to hold them accountable as well. So once again, that's just a part of this journey. In this campaign, maybe we're the catalyst in here, in New York, which is supposed to be a union town. We need to address the systemic issues, whether it's with the NLRB, or whether it's with the federal government, or Amazon itself. We already know the issues there. We need to make sure the time is now that they all get corrected.
And just hang tight. We're working on the audio, so it's in both ears. So. What are your thoughts on the Bessemer? I mean, obviously you got to focus on efforts here, but I mean, the NLRB here, it seems, was a little lopsided to Amazon, but at least down south, at least they're correcting what seemed to be an unfair election.
Right. That's exactly why I'm saying right here in New York, we should be able to have one too. Alabama rightfully deserved one, and I stand in solidarity with them. I wish them all the best. Sending them all the solidarity and support that we can. But we definitely deserve one here in New York. And we're hoping our stories, our journeys, our campaigns, they resonate with all workers across the nation. I'm hoping that they'll be successful this time, because that success is going to play a part up here in New York as well.
And I also think people should know, just in terms of the season, right now is peak season, the holidays, big business for a Goliath like Amazon. But typically after the holidays, they clean house even more, and they just fire a lot of the seasonal workers they hired. So it's going to make your job even harder, because people you're signing up now probably will get canned right after Christmas.
Right. Yeah, we expected that as well. That's why when it comes to that, that just comes down to who we include in our bargaining unit, which we ain't get there yet. So, once we get to that point, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. We definitely, we just analyze. We're pretty much analyzing stuff week by week. That's just how we have to do it. When you're dealing with this company with this high turnover rate, you have to analyze stuff every week. You have to re-strategize. That's what we're doing now, especially we had a tough month. We had the withdrawal. Somebody passed away right in front of, somebody got killed right here. So that put a hamper on, the morale. So we're battling so many things behind the scenes. It's up to the workers to just stay resilient and stay together, and hopefully we'll be successful when we resubmit our cards.
And I wanted to also tell the audience, so I've been here a few times just interviewing workers over the last few months. Today was the first time I came. There's crossing guards everywhere that never were here, and that's because there was, unfortunately, a fatality where a worker, I think, crossing the street was hit by a car and died. And by the way, this is not the first time there's been accidents out here, and I won't get into it because, this situation, the person didn't want to speak, but there's been incidents where Amazon knew people got hit and did nothing about it. I'll leave it at that. So can you kind of talk about the fact that Amazon's like suddenly now putting, people in to do crosswalks and all that?
Yeah, once again, this is the problem with Amazon. Everything they do is retroactive. That's what I was raising concerns about last year with even COVID. I'm like, yo, this virus is coming, right? And they're like, oh, well, business as usual. Same thing that happened here, unfortunately. Somebody passed away, and now all of a sudden, there's crossing guards. When we been out here, like you mentioned, and somebody was hit just in the beginning of our campaign 5-6 months ago. So this is not the first time. It won't be the last time, because these crossing guards are not even here, 24/7. They're only here for a certain amount of time, and they're human. They gotta take time off too. So they go home, and it's like business as usual once again. So, these things need to be changed and addressed. It's up to us to call that out, and us doing the visual and reaching out to the family and trying to support the workers. That's up to us. The company's never going to do that.
I wanted to ask you before I let you go. I think a lot of people looking around at all these other things, John Deere strikes, they were successful. We were on the ground covering that in Iowa and Illinois. You had Nabisco workers striking. They were successful. Frito-Lay workers struck. They were successful. You have a lot of successful strikes right now. You have a lot of that Mercy Hospital workers in Buffalo. We spoke with them. They were successful. All these workers, some of them were on strike for over a month, 2 months, but they got a new contract. You look at the coal miners in Alabama have been fighting for 8 months. You look at the nurses in St. Vincent's Hospital in Massachusetts. They've been on strike, I think, for 8 or 9 months. But the common denominator in all of them, particularly the workers who successfully got a new contract, is they had a union. They had a union. So that's why, the media is certainly not going to cover their effort to unionize here, because Amazon is a big sponsor and advertiser with most of the media. But that's why this union drive, the Starbucks workers union drive, it's so important, because you realize those workers that have successfully gone on strike and got new contracts, none of that would have happened if they didn't have that foundation of a union for the mutual aid, for strike pay. If you go on strike, there's a pot of pay from that union. For some of those unions, health care for the workers that are on strike. So that's why it's super important that people stay vigilant and stay focused on this effort, because this is not David Goliath. This is David first 3 Goliaths. And Amazon, I do think the fact that they're doing these mandatory listening sessions, peak training, which are just union busting, they obviously feel some threat if they feel the need to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I know it. We can feel it. The morale is with us. Even though we took some L's, that's a part of the campaign. Not every day is going to be a good day. But the victories that we do have, we definitely amplify them. And even the news yesterday with the possible of me being reinstated, we're going to use that to our advantage. The news with Bessemer, we're going to use that to our advantage. The news with all the controversy that's coming out against Amazon, we're going to use that to our advantage. So that's just what it's about. Who's going to stay to the very end and continue to fight when you're going up against a Goliath like Amazon. And I probably have to, I don't have to take that. But
my last question real quick.
Yeah.
Listen, I got to tell you, I don't expect anything from Joe Biden. I don't expect anything from the Democratic Party. But, AOC, she's in New York. Jamal Bowman in New York. Where are the elected progressives to support you guys? This is in New York. AOC is a New York congresswoman. Jamal Bowman's a New York congresswoman. Chuck Schumer's, claiming to be progressive these days, jumping on to anything he can to avoid a primary. I haven't heard diddly shit from any of these people.
Yeah, I think Staten Island's the misfit. That's what they call it, the misfit island. So I'm a misfit. I'm not supposed to be here. It's all obvious. The support is not as strong as it should be. And the politicians definitely have a responsibility to do that. I don't understand why they haven't done what they're supposed to do. You got to ask them. I could bash them all day about it, but that doesn't help us. So, it just.
Well, you'd like to see more from AOC, Jamal Bowman.
It shouldn't even be a question. It should be a no-brainer. Especially when I've spoken to her in person several times in D.C. and I know that they support behind the scenes or whatever, but that's not what we need. We need people to be upfront, outspoken, and in the media so that resonates with the workers here. There's people here from their district, constituents here that was actually workers on their actual original campaigns. So for them to not be here supporting is a disservice to them, not to me. I'm from New Jersey, so, none of them represent me anyway. But at the same time, the workers that do live here, live in New York, that's who they need to be here for. And they don't realize that they come from all 5 boroughs here. This building holds 7,000 workers. They're not just coming from Staten Island. So Jackson Heights, Rockland County, whatever district these politicians are from, there's workers here from there. So they should be here.
And it also goes to the fact, I'm not putting it all on AOC or Congressman Bowman or them, but bottom line is, what has she got? Like 13, 14 million Twitter followers. So if you get out in front of it, if you're public, supporting your efforts, calling out these union busting meetings they're having, the unsafe conditions, it draws a lot more attention on it, more media attention, more activism. So it's a domino effect, and all it takes is a couple tweets, maybe, so definitely that. Where can people support ALU's efforts?
Absolutely. AmazonLaborUnion.org. Follow us on Twitter at Amazon Labor. Follow me at @shut_down Amazon. And continue to support, donate. Every dollar, every penny goes towards our efforts.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. And Natalie, if you're around, hold on. Sorry about that. Sorry, but hold on, folks. 1 second. Just checking something on the audio. Give me 1 second. We'll continue. Yeah, so what's the issue? Okay, so it's good now? Got it. All right. So this is Natalie, a worker here, and I just hit a lot of topics with Christian. I mean, it's like an onion. There's a lot. You have the Attorney General's motion to basically force Amazon to be a responsible corporate citizen and protect the workers with safety protocols for COVID, which they haven't been doing for months. Frankly, even when they were doing it, they weren't really doing it, which we could talk about. Then you have the mandatory union busting sessions, which I know you've been involved with on the receiving end. So I wanted to start with the mandatory union busting sessions because we obtained audio from one of the sessions. If you have the stomach, in the description is the article. It plays the audio. It's about a half-hour meeting, but it's just blatant propaganda about the scary. They're a third party. They're a third party, and you're gonna have they could fine you, and you don't want them. You don't want to join the union because it's going to interrupt our sacred, holy, direct relationship. This is the Amazon HR people, what they're feeding. And by the way, that's the general talking point most companies use, Starbucks has used, and others have used when they're trying to union bust, that it's going to interrupt the direct relationship. Well, you and I have spoken many times. It sounds like the direct relationship sucks. It sounds like the direct relationship entails threats against workers, intimidation, constant threats of firing, constant monitoring and surveillance. Can you kind of talk about, just in the recent weeks, they've obviously escalated the union busting. Tell me about it.
Well, a few weeks back, we already had union busters in the building ever since April, but they brought in a lot more. And 2 weeks ago, they started corralling 40 to 50 people at a time, telling the workers that it was peak training. They basically lied to us, and then had everybody going into a classroom, and it was mandatory. You couldn't get out of it. And then they would have a couple of union busters talking about how Amazon had our backs and everybody was being taken care of and that we didn't have any issues, but that they wanted to warn us about this group called the ALU, us, basically the workers of the Amazon Labor Union. And then they would make us watch a video for 20 minutes, and the entire video was 20 minutes of propaganda, anti-union and anti-ALU propaganda. It was all lies, it was all misinformation. It was basically repeatedly saying that we were a third party, that we were not affiliated with Amazon in any way, shape, or form, that we were going to take all their money, that we had no experience doing any of this, that we weren't invested at all in caring for them or about any of the issues that were coming up, let alone resolving any of those issues. And one by one, all of the ALU organizers that were in different meetings on different days and different times stood up, and we challenged these people, because at the end they would have a Q&A. We'd wait for everybody to have their say, and then the ALU organizers one by one would stand up in each of their meetings and say, we're not a third party, it's worker-led. We've been out there since April. We're organizing inside and outside, all four of the buildings. We're addressing issues. We're advocating for workers every day. We're dealing with lawyers and community leaders, and we're really tackling some big issues here, and we're basically fighting for the workers. It's worker-led, fighting for other workers. And of course the union busters are trying to shut us down, denying everything that we said, and trying to continue the lies, but the ALU organizers literally stood their ground, and one meeting by one meeting we shut them down. And it eventually basically erupted into the union busters saying, okay, meeting's over, everybody out, this isn't going the way we planned. And some of us audio taped it and videotaped it. So that was their big mistake. They underestimated us again.
What's amazing to me is, so they describe it as peak training, because this is peak season, I guess, at Amazon, holidays, whatever. Right. And I listened to the audio, and there was literally no discussion about anything having to do with peak, holiday season. The first couple minutes was just bullshit about the benefits and how great they put you through colleges and things like that. Maybe some of it's true. From what I hear, most of it's not. And then it went, I think, like within 2 minutes of the meeting, it was like, so let's talk about the ALU. Who's the ALU? Right. What should you do when they approach you? Right. So, can you describe for the workers in there, you can't get in their heads, but for the workers that are basically being just pummeled with this propaganda, is it effective? Are the workers kind of see through a lot of this? Obviously you guys do, but what is the effect on other workers who are just like maybe a little bit more susceptible to that kind of messaging?
It seemed to me that about half of the workers, which were probably new hires, were just confused by the entire situation. They weren't quite sure what to say or what to do. But the people that have been there a little bit longer definitely started backing up the ALU organizers and started asking their own questions. And when I was in my meeting, I had a handful of people that were saying yeah, and nodding their heads and clapping when I was making certain points. But unfortunately, when my meeting started, I stood up and stood in between two of the union busters, and one of them freaked out and ran outside and called in a dozen young white male HR, safety, loss prevention, other union busters that were outside the door. They all came in wearing their yellow vest, and they all lined up at the very back of the room, and they were trying to shout me down and telling me to be quiet and to sit down or just leave. Some of them were laughing at me, and I was focused on all the workers in between us. So I had 40 people that I could talk to about the ALU, what we were about, that we were basically workers fighting for other workers, that we were there to address any issues and concerns and to increase the benefits and the pay for everybody, to tackle discrimination, harassment, all the other issues going on, and as well as everybody getting sick, injured, and we have had a few deaths in there as well. And these are important issues that need to be addressed that management is totally ignoring. So I had a dozen guys trying to shout me down for, probably about 15 minutes I was up there talking.
So one worker fighting back then brought in 12 white HR people to basically stop you?
Ran out and got, a union buster that I was standing right next to ran out and literally got a dozen young white guys in yellow vests that were all team leaders in different departments to come in and shout me down and to try to intimidate me. And it didn't work. So they raised their voice at me. I raised my voice at them back. I continued spreading as much information as I could. And it wasn't until the end of the meeting, after I was up there for like 15 minutes, when things slowly started quieting down again, because it reached a point where they had nothing to say back to me. I was hitting too many points that they didn't want to address. So at that point, the head of, he called himself the head of Employee Resource Center. I've never seen or heard this guy before. I think he said his name was Fred Lawrence or something like that. He came in, big guy, 6'5", 6'6", huge guy. Comes in and stands over me and tells me to sit down and told me that I need to go. And I said, no, you go. I said, you're the visitor here. You're the union buster getting paid to sell us out. I work here. I live here. I'm going to tell them about the ALU. If you guys are going to drag us into these meetings, make us watch these ridiculous videos for 20 minutes that nobody is buying, nobody with a brain cell between their ears, then what are you doing? And he got upset, and at that point, they started calling people out of the meeting, and they were like, okay, meeting's over. It's done. It's done. And
So you're a real thorn in their ass, basically.
I'm a big thorn in their ass, but that's okay. Just that they don't want to deal with the ALU organizers. And I've dealt with HR people. I've dealt with managers. Whenever there's an issue for any worker that I hear about, I have no problem going into their office and saying, hey, this is an issue. It was mishandled by your team leaders. We need to address it. We need to make sure this worker is taken care of. And lately, the past few months, the HR and management people have been cooperating somewhat. They're still annoyed that I bring it up, but they are cooperating, or at least trying to, because they know we're making a lot of headway with the union. We have over 2,000 signatures. Every time we get more signatures, they hire more people, and the labor board keeps coming back and telling us, you need more signatures, you need more, you need more.
So basically, how it's working is since they're hiring more workers, the number you need to reach keeps going higher because you need 30% of the total workforce. Do I have that right?
Correct. Yeah, we in order to have a union, we have to give 30% signatures of these 4 buildings. It's about 7,000 people. We need 30% of that 7,000 to sign cards just to at least show that we have interest in having an election date. We give all those cards to the labor board over in Brooklyn, and then they're supposed to meet with Jeff Bezos' lawyers to figure out an election date and work with Chris about an election date. Unfortunately, they terminate so many people and the turnover is so high, and at the same time they're bringing in so many people, they keep trying to play with the numbers to play with our numbers. So we keep getting more and more signatures, and we keep coming out here day and night talking to the workers, addressing any questions or concerns that they have, just to give them as much information as we have. And Amazon just keeps on playing their games. So we were really happy that we had a lot of support from the NLRB. Lately, we haven't been quite sure which side they're on. I mean, what is going on? Are they siding with Jeff Bezos' lawyers because they're intimidated by them? Is somebody being paid off over there? I hope to God that's not the case. But it just seems like their support of us is waning, and it's been really demoralizing. But at the same time, it's also made us even more firm in what we're doing, that it's piqued the curiosity of a lot of the workers. We've had a lot more workers coming by and just saying, hey, we've been hearing about the news, we've been reading stories, like we've heard rumors at work. What is really going on? Like, what's the story? So it's actually piqued enough interest to where we're still getting more signatures.
Well,
it's having the opposite effect.
It also seems to me the National Labor Relations Board, not that they watch this, but it's like you got to have some type of monitoring to make sure that they're not just firing workers because they signed union cards, or just maybe Amazon doesn't know which workers signed the union cards, but they're just firing a ton of workers just to basically thwart or screw your numbers so that you show up with, Chris said, over 2,000 signatures, but half of them were fired. So it's kind of like there has to be some type of enforcement by the National Labor Relations Board to make sure that companies aren't just getting rid of staff or hiring new staff, because the Starbucks is trying to do that in Buffalo, where they're just hiring a hell of a lot of workers, plopping them down in these coffee houses to basically interrupt the momentum of the union drive, but also to dilute the number of actual workers that are for the union.
Right. Yeah, all the signatures on the union cards to show interest have to be current workers. So we're trying to explain to the workers that are coming by the tent, yes, we're getting a lot of signatures, but we need more, and we're all fighting for each other. So we're going to stay out here and do what we have to do. And God willing, we're going to get to that election date, because the bottom line is that no matter how much the managers and executives say that they respect the workers and that they appreciate us so much, which is what they put on their ridiculous flyers in the bathroom and the break rooms and everything else, along with all their anti-ALU propaganda, they say one thing about, against the union, against ALU, but then on the same flyers they say, we love you so much, we appreciate you so much, we couldn't do this without you. Well, which is it? Do you respect us enough to let us have an election vote, which we have the right to do? It's our decision. It's not the executive's decision to have a union. It's ours, the workers.
And can we also talk about, you and I have talked about this privately, but it's the holiday season, it's cold, and there's a whole lot of workers here that live in the parking lot that are homeless, that, you know, because we're in New York City, it's the one of the most expensive cities in the country. They're not making enough to even afford to live, so they're sleeping in their cars outside here, and it's not a small number. I wanted to ask you about that because, again, the PR that Amazon puts out there, you get all these commercials that are rainbows and sunshines, and they're helping people through school, and it's wonderful being an Amazon worker. Well, there's a lot of people that are homeless Amazon workers.
Right. At last count, there were about over 100 cars in this outside parking lot and the inside parking lot, the covered multi-layer lot behind me. And they're there 24/7, including on the holidays, like on Christmas and New Year's Day when there aren't that many people here. They're here 24/7. And I feel for them. I'm one of them. So, you know, we try to advocate, and I'm trying to hook up people with other people so that we can do roommate situations and share expenses and stuff. But the reality is that in New York and New Jersey, basically any of the surrounding states, you have to make over $70,000 just to be able to afford a one-bedroom apartment. And so, you know, you can't do it. You can't do it without working 2 or 3 jobs in New York or working a ton of overtime in here. You have to max out at 60. You can't go over 60 hours. So that also plays into the fact that hourly workers, mostly black and brown employees, do not get promoted. They just don't get promoted. They're not given interviews. Everybody in there in these buildings plays favorites. You have to be a young white male fresh out of college in order to get into a management position here. And it creates a huge us versus them situation in there because a lot of those kids are very spoiled, very racist, very sexist, and they're constantly targeting some of the best employees that Amazon has in there. So what they say and what they do are 2 different things. And as far as those training courses saying that they're going to pay 95% or whatever of vocational training or college fund, any of that, it's all a lie because I've actually met people in there that have gone through some of their courses for IT training and computers. And they said that, yeah, they were promised that 95% of their tuition would be paid. But then at the end of the class, 3, 4, 5 months later, guess what? They get a bill in the mail. It's on them to pay that money. Amazon does not come through. So Amazon's willing to play dirty, make empty promises, do and say whatever they need to do. We're still being bombarded with propaganda everywhere. It's covered every inch in that building. And it's ridiculous. You don't say that you respect the workers and that we're one big family and one big happy team, but then you treat us with such a lack of respect and dignity that it's sad. It's really sad.
And,
That's why we're here. That's why we're out here.
Not to get too personal, you don't have to talk about it, but you said you're one of them. So you're currently homeless working at Amazon?
Currently am, yeah. I have been homeless for the past, 2.5, almost 3 years that I've been here now. And I haven't been able to afford a place. None of my family's out here. I noticed a lot of people on the East Coast, a lot of them have basements in their homes, so there isn't really much of a roommate situation unless you're going to a university out here or you're over 55 and you can afford senior discount rents at some type of senior apartment. Otherwise, a lot of people get married straight out of the home or they move into their folks' basement. A lot of the families are really tight here on the East Coast, so it's been really, really tough. I go on Craigslist every single day. I've already filed for renter's assistance a few months back in Jersey and in New York, still on a waiting list for low-income housing. And the fact that I can make $20 an hour and still be considered for low-income housing it's mind-boggling because the rest of the country is thinking, well, she's making more than minimum wage. How come she can't afford a place to live? Well, it's because there's no affordable rent out here, and we don't make enough, and we don't get promoted. I mean, I've been with the company since 2017. I have an AA degree. I've trained literally hundreds of people since I've been in Jersey and New York. And I've applied over a dozen times for positions at the next level, Tier 3. I can't even get an interview. That's ridiculous. And for me to have to work for people half my age and answer to people half my age who have no experience here and are really disrespectful to the workers, it's beyond frustrating. really beyond frustrating.
And you're basically saying that even though somebody like you, woman, believe a minority, correct me if I'm wrong, Latino, thank you, has all these qualifications, they will not promote you or make you a manager, and they just have this pipeline of basically spoiled white dudes that they bring in here as managers.
Right. That's pretty much it. And when I think about that, and I know plenty of other women in there and other minorities that they've also applied, and they have a lot of job experience behind them. You have to remember that half the people in here are young kids. It's their first job, but the other half of the people in here are people that literally lost their careers in the recession in 2007, 2008. So we're talking there's people in here in their late 40s, early 50s, and sometimes older that literally have so many qualifications to be an amazing manager, and they already know the job, they know the departments, they know the workers. They literally could run circles around these other new managers that are being brought in, and yet they're not even being given a chance. So how do we promote, how do we elevate inside the company and have any potential to have any kind of long-standing career here if we can't even make it from a tier 1, which is the basic bottom level, to a tier 3 level?
And also, like, just from a human being perspective, I can't imagine working like 10 to 12 hours, being just like, they treat you like robots, keep pumping out, we need your output to get better, we need your numbers to get better, we need it quicker, then pulling you into a meeting, union busting, all of this, and then like just from a human level, then like you don't even have the ability to like go to a place with a wall and ceiling. You're like in your car. That's got to be incredibly depressing, honestly.
It is, but at the same time, being involved with the Amazon Labor Union gives me the motivation and the purpose I need. Knowing how these people are being treated every day, knowing what I've seen and heard and experienced since 2017 in Jersey, it's not just one particular place. It's a widespread issue, and it's basically about treating your workers with some dignity and respect. That's what it's about. And just treat us like we're human beings, not just numbers. I mean, yesterday, we're all working mandatory overtime between Thanksgiving and Christmas. We're all pulling 60-hour work weeks now. We're working 5 days a week, 12-hour shifts. And just yesterday, I'm doing my job, and I'm literally exceeding the rate and the production rate. And even though I'm exceeding it, I still have a young, white, new male manager who just came on board 2 months ago come up to me with his clipboard and literally put his computer and his clipboard right in front of my face while I'm working and saying, you need to get the numbers up, you need to get the numbers up. And I looked right at him and I said, you don't know what you're doing. I'm doing fine, I'm exceeding the rate, go away. And he got upset and he's like, no, you need to get the numbers higher. And I said, yeah, so that you can get a promotion and you can get a raise and take credit for the work I'm doing. I'm doing fine, you need to go. Like, respect me enough to just let me do my job. Leave me alone and let me do my job, because I'm doing a really good job and I wouldn't have lasted this long if I wasn't. And he finally walked away, but I saw him only doing that to the minority women. He was leaving everybody else alone. And that's something that I see every single day in there. And every single day I'm still hearing complaints from other women saying that they're being sexually harassed on top of being discriminated against from all these young male managers. Where do you draw the line? I mean, as a human being, I can't stay quiet about that stuff. I'm going to stand up and fight for anybody I can, and I'm going to defend myself whenever I have to.
It is quite the different picture than you see with the fuzzy rainbows and sunshine Amazon commercials, what you and many other workers. Before we wrap up, I wanted to also I mentioned this to Chris, but I wanted to ask what you think too. I think a lot of people, maybe they just don't think about it, but they see these strikes. John Deere just successfully went on strike. We were covering it in Iowa and Illinois. They got a new contract. Mercy Hospital workers in Buffalo, they were on strike. They got a new contract. Frito-Lay, Nabisco. There's too long a list. There's a whole lot of workers that have fought back, went on strike, and they successfully got a contract. But people shouldn't forget, well, they're able to do that because they have a union. So they're able to go on strike because they have a union. They're able to go on strike because as part of dues, there's strike pay that, workers get paid something from the union. In some cases, you get health care from the union when you go on strike. Mutual aid. So there's a lot of just foundational structural things that allowed them to go on strike. So that's why it's super important. You know, the cavalry is not coming. Joe Biden's not going to do anything. The Democratic Party is not going to do anything. The Republicans, we know, are not going to do anything. So that's why it's really important that it doesn't matter if you work at Amazon or Starbucks, but you need to start having big scale, just one, union victories, because if one Amazon is able to unionize, I mean, it cannot be stated enough what that would signify and the domino effect from there for other Amazons, for other major corporations. So that's why it's so important, I think, that we're staying on this. I mean, let's just say what it is. It's been a tough period. Obviously, the NLRB rejected their first box of union cards, saying it wasn't enough. But that doesn't mean you just quit. So any parting thoughts based on what I just said?
I'm really happy for the union organizers and the workers that literally stood up for themselves and made a difference for themselves and their families. I think every worker in the United States should be doing it. It's important for the workers out there to know that a lot of the locations, the Amazons in Europe, are already unionized, and they are making a living wage. They are not struggling like American workers are in the United States. So I just want all the workers to know, literally, you have to stand up. Like, all the change happens from the bottom up. Literally, the change happens from the bottom up. We can't expect the executives here to do the right thing. We can't expect the politicians to step up, even though they're paying to be represented. They're supposed to be representing us, and most of them are not, unfortunately. But, you know, just don't give up the fight. I mean, value yourself, value your coworkers, value the teams you're on, and literally stand up for yourself. Stand up for what's right. We're here to help. We're here to protect each other. Thank you for doing what you do. You're amazing. Please donate to Status Coup, and seriously, support Jordan and what he's doing. This is incredible work. It's badly needed, and we appreciate any support that we get from you guys, customers, shareholders, anybody out there. Thank you. We do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. That is a good segue to my final point. In the description of this live stream, if you are a Status Coup member, if you're not a Status Coup member, I hope you'll sign up. It's not cheap to do this kind of work. Obviously, travel, paying a camera person, myself, Colin. There's a whole lot of other costs I don't want to bore you with. It's expensive to do on-the-ground reporting, so that's why most people don't, besides the fact that they're lazy and would rather just do commentary and hot takes on bullshit. So actual on-the-ground reporting, going to talk to workers. We were just on a 2-week reporting trip recently, first in Iowa and Illinois, covering the John Deere strikes. It was cold, let me tell you, but we were there. We drove, Colin and I, probably 10 hours around Iowa and then Illinois. Then we went to Buffalo. We covered India Walton's election. You know, unfortunately, she lost, but I think it's important to cover the fight, win, lose, or draw, elections, workers, worker battles, that kind of thing. You need cameras, you need microphones to hear from workers, because frankly, I don't see CNN out here. I don't see MSNBC out here. If the New York Times, Washington Post, if any of them actually even do stories on this, typically it's very tilted to make it a wash and make it very balanced to try and make Amazon look okay. They don't tell you everything, the truth. So if you're not a member, consider signing up, statuscoup.com/join. You can become a member for $5 a month. This is how we grow, statuscoup.com/join. You get perks as a member, our monthly members call, behind the scenes videos. So statuscoup.com/join, become a member for $5 a month. The other thing is, I don't want to bore you with the particulars. If you signed up as a member already before October, so before October of this year, so let's say you signed up last year or years before or before October, you're signed up to our old membership site. Very long story short, that old membership site we moved away from. So we have joined a brand new membership site, and we're trying to get people who signed up from the old membership site to switch over to the new membership site. If your eyes have glossed over, no need. We've made a very, very simple video of how you do it. So that is underneath the video in the member switch link. You click on that link. It gives you instructions for how to switch. There's a video Colin and I did for how to switch. It should not take you more than 3 minutes. If you have any issues switching, you could email us at info@statuscoup.com. It is very important that we get as many people as possible who are signed up from our old membership site over to the new membership site. Very simply put, the old site, there was a lot of problems with payments failing. Your information is safe. That's not what I mean. But payments not going through, payments failing. Whereas this new membership site, a lot more reliable. Frankly, we need the payments to go through to afford all this. So there's also the new site has more perks. Including we're going to be able to do a membership merchandise store where exclusive merchandise just for Status Coup members. So right under this, click on the link. If you haven't done it yet, take the few minutes. You'll cancel on the old site that you signed up through, and you'll re-sign up to the new site. I saw one person in the comments say, yeah, it's too much of a hassle. Listen, life's a hassle. Just do this once. We won't ask you to do it again, but we need you to switch. So cancel on the old site, re-sign up at the new site. The link is right under me in the description for how to do it. It should be very simple. And if you're not signed up at all, statuscoup.com/join. You can sign up there to become a new member. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we'll stay on Amazon's just Dr. Evil level union busting. Thank you, thank you, thank you. See you tomorrow.
You got empanadas, y'all. Free food.